The Beatles were not only musical innovators, but also social commentators who used their songs to express their views on various issues. One of their most political songs was Taxman, the opening track of their 1966 album Revolver, which was a scathing critique of the high taxes imposed by the British government at the time. The song was written by George Harrison, who felt frustrated by the amount of money he had to pay to the tax authorities. He explained in his autobiography, "I Me Mine," quote, "I had discovered I was paying a huge amount of money to the taxman. You are so happy that you finally started earning money, and then you find out about tax. In those days, we paid 19 shillings and 6 pence out of every pound, and with supertax and surtax and tax, it was ridiculous, a heavy penalty to pay for making money. That was a big turnoff for Britain. Anybody who ever made any money moved to America or somewhere else." Harrison wasn't exaggerating. In 1966, the top rate of income tax in Britain was 83%, and there was an additional 15% surtax on unearned income, such as royalties and dividends. This meant that the wealthiest individuals, such as the Beatles, could end up paying as much as 98% of their income to the government. This was part of the Labour Party's policy of redistributing wealth and funding public services, but it also discouraged investment and entrepreneurship. Harrison used sarcasm and humor to mock the greedy and oppressive tax collectors, who seemed to want to take everything from him, even his tea. He also warned the listeners that they were not safe from the taxman's reach, and that they should declare their pennies before he took them away. Harrison was not a prolific songwriter at this point of his career, and he often struggled to finish his songs. He asked for help from his bandmate and friend, John Lennon, who was more experienced and confident in writing lyrics. Lennon agreed to assist him, although he was not very enthusiastic about it. He recalled in an interview, quote, "I remember the day he called to ask for help on Taxman, one of his first songs. I threw in a few one-liners to help the song along, because that's what he asked for. He came to me because he couldn't go to Paul, because Paul wouldn't have helped him at that period. I didn't want to do it. I thought, oh, no, don't tell me I have to work on George's stuff. It's enough doing my own and Paul's. But because I loved him and I didn't want to hurt him when he called that afternoon and said, 'Will you help me with this song?' I just sort of bit my tongue and said okay. It had been John and Paul for so long, he'd been left out because he hadn't been a songwriter up until then." One of the contributions that Lennon made to the song was to suggest the names of the two main political leaders of Britain at the time, Harold Wilson, the Prime Minister and leader of the Labour Party, and Edward Heath, the leader of the opposition and the Conservative Party. Harrison incorporated them into the lyrics, making them the first living people to be directly named in a Beatles song. The song began with a count-in, spoken by McCartney, who said 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. This was taken from an earlier take of the song, which had a different vocal arrangement. In that take, Lennon and McCartney sang "Anybody Got a Bit of Money" in falsetto, instead of the Mr. Wilson, Mr. Heath lines. This version of the song was later released on the anthology 2 collection in 1996. The guitar solo in the song was also performed by Paul, rather than George. Harrison was happy with it, though, and liked how it had an Indian-influenced descending riff at the end. Taxman was the first song on Revolver, which is widely regarded as one of the best and most influential albums of all time. Taxman is a song that resonates with many people who feel the same way as Harrison about the unfair and oppressive tax system. It's a song that showed the genius and courage of the Beatles, who used their music to express their opinions and emotions, and to challenge the status quo.